Hello, everyone. Welcome to a 1cc of Like Dreamer on Maniac mode. This was a 1cc that I did in December of 2025. And what I'm trying to do is basically catalog any of the 1cc's that I have recorded, and I'd like to kind of put them here on my YouTube and then be able to come back to them later and see if I've made any progress on either just doing a better performance, having a higher score, or performing in a 1cc on a higher difficulty for a particular game. So, Like Dreamer is a shmup by the developer Outside, and it was released in 2021, and I started playing these Outside shmups over the last year, whether it was Cosmo Dreamer or Redneck All-Stars, or here we have Like Dreamer. And I really kind of got into these games. They're just kind of filled with really great visuals, great style, and honestly, it's, some people might even call this a cute 'em up. I'm not sure. It's borderline cute 'em up, I would say, but the gameplay is really tight, and that was one of the things that drew me into it. And I would also say for kind of maybe even new players to the shmup genre, playing a game like this might be something to start with, depending on what style you like, because this is definitely a bullet hell. The speed of the bullets pretty fast at times, and the bullet density on screen can get really crazy. So you really kind of have to weave your way through it. But one of the things that I've been trying to accomplish as a shmupper is to find games that don't really require routing per se. And I would say that this is one of those games where you can kind of play through, at least on Maniac mode, and just kind of be kind of reactive after you play through it a few times. What's interesting about this run is that this is probably the first or second time I actually saw some of the later bosses. So when I get to the last boss, for instance, I don't think I had any idea about what to expect, and it really came down to the wire, which is kind of funny for a run like this. But this is one of those games where you can kind of jump in, and so I think Outside did this to most of their shmups, where you have to go through almost what's like a story mode first, and you can do that at any difficulty to unlock every stage one at a time. And then once you do that, you unlock what they call trial mode, which is essentially arcade mode, which is what I'm playing through right now. So this is Maniac difficulty, which essentially is normal, and trial mode is technically what they call arcade mode, which is the way that you kind of play all the stages in a playlist instead of playing through the story mode. And so that's just kind of the way they do it. And for this run, I picked Yuri, and I went with ABAA loadout, which, let me just go to my notes here. That is front form with options in a frontal direction. The missile focus was in homing form, and I went with Stinging Words, which fires a stream of needles. And so I don't remember exactly why I picked this loadout. I think I was trying a couple of different ships or characters while I was playing through the story, and somehow I landed on this one after playing through a couple of runs that were very like maybe halfway through the game. So one of the other things that I think makes the Outside shmups a little bit more newcomer friendly is they have a pretty good stage difficulty progression where, the first few stages, it's really kind of setting you up and getting you used to some of the way that they're going to throw patterns at you. And they really start to ramp it up as you get to stage 4 and beyond. And then, once you get to the last stage and the last boss, it's pretty hectic. And this is one of those games where each boss has, or you essentially have to kill the boss X amount of times. And so you can see up in the upper left-hand corner that this boss has 4 hearts. So every time you kill the boss, they lose a heart. And for the most part, every time you get to one of their new phases, it seems to increase in difficulty a bit. And so, I mean, looking at these patterns, if you're a newcomer to the genre, you might be like, this is nuts, this is crazy. But once you kind of sit down with it and feel how tight the gameplay is, it's really doable. I think this clear clocks in around 28 minutes, which is a little bit more than I usually like. I really like the closer to 20 to 25 minutes, but 28's not that bad. It feels like it goes fast, though, while you're playing through this. You don't really feel like you're ever stuck in a stage for very long, but there are 8 stages. And I want to say that the 8th stage feels a little bit longer than the rest. So the other good thing about this game for newcomers is you are able to really use the first 3 to 4 stages to build up your resource pool. You are able to, increase your mental level, which are the 3 stars that you get, are essentially 3 hits per life. And the extend system is pretty generous in this difficulty, so every so often you get an extend, and you can see right now it says when I get to 128 million, you get the next extend, so you get a full new life at that point. And so, the first few stages, if you are doing well and you're not getting hit too much and you're scoring decently, then you end up with a decent amount of lives once you get towards the end game, and that definitely helps. It's not like a straight shmup where you get 3 lives and you're dead with only a couple extends in between. You get far more resources than that, at least on this difficulty. And what's interesting is, if you watch this till the end, or if you skip to the end, if I didn't have all of the resources that I had saved up for this run, I would not have made it. I really cleared this, but within an inch of my life. I was pretty sure that I was not going to clear it on this one. So this is probably like one of the closest clears I ever had. And that means not a great clear. And this was one of those things where, in the moment, back in December, when I was playing this game, I was playing it, and, once I got this clear, I was like, all right, I'm done. I'm done for now. And I've always wanted to go back to it and, again, do a better clear, do a better job on the last boss in all of the phases, because then I at least had a look at it, and should be able to do a better job. But I just haven't gone back and tried to do any better. But I will. And by me spending time doing commentary for this 1cc, it's almost like a reminder to myself. So if I'm going to sit here for a half hour and do this, then I'm definitely going to come back to it. And I just saw myself get hit. Like, I don't know what was going on there, but I was just sitting still. I don't know, maybe I was scratching my face or something like that, but that was a completely unnecessary hit that I took there. One other thing to note is that this game has a TLB, which includes stage 9, and in order to get to that TLB, you have to beat stage 8 with the least amount of misses or being hit, and it is very clear that I was not even close to meeting that requirement. So that's another thing to reach for, and that's another thing to come back to this for, is to see if I can do a run where I can get to the TLB and then beat the TLB. And I'm sure that adds another good 2 to 4 minutes onto the run time, so you're talking, you know, over a half hour at that point. So there is some level of stamina that comes along with that, but you know, that's good. Those are the kinds of things in shmups that give them replayability, in my opinion. But it's optional, right? It's I didn't have to think about the TLB. I didn't even have to know about the TLB when I made this clear. But you know, going back to it, there's something extra to do it. There is something extra to do besides just a harder difficulty. And speaking of difficulties, there are a total of 5 difficulties. So casual is essentially easy, Maniac is essentially normal, and then it goes expert, nightmare, chaos. And I don't think that I've tried anything above Maniac just yet. So I don't really know how hard it really gets, but I'm assuming that as you go into those other 3 difficulties, you're going to get less extends, they're going to be further away, you're probably going to have to hit higher scores in order to get them, and I'm assuming that, you know, bullet density, bullet speed increases in some way, and it probably ramps up. Something else to look at. But, you know, if you get comfortable enough with these patterns and you start to feel good with the controls, it might be something worth taking on. One of the other things I really like about the outside shmups is that, you know, you're kind of in this semi-cute-em-up art style, and, you know, I'm killing fluffy bunnies and weird toys and dolls, and there's flowers and plants and all this fun stuff. And, you know, the music sometimes is a little calming and soothing instead of being, you know, kind of menacing or making you feel like there's, you know, something to worry about. And I like that kind of juxtaposition with some of the bullet patterns coming at you, where it's just a fierce barrage at some point. And so you're kind of sitting there listening to this chill music, you know, going through these nice, you know, pieces of art, yet these bullets are coming at you trying to kill you. So it's kind of cool. You can see those bunnies. They look nice and fluffy, but they do have a menacing look on their face. So, you know, don't let them fool you. Yeah, so your mental level is basically your hit count per life, but also you can use those as bombs. So if you use one of those mental level stars, you can use a bomb and then lose it, or you can opt to not bomb and use those as hits to make it easier for you if you're feeling like you're not going to be able to dodge everything. And I think on this run, and what I'd been doing playing this game, in my strategy was to only bomb when 100% necessary. And I think that seemed to work for me. Other than that, you do get a regular normal shot, and you do get a slow, which I really like. This is the kind of shmup that I like, where it's got some bullet hell. You really have to make some precise movements in between crazy patterns, and you got to use that slow to get in those nice precise motions. And like I said, the gameplay on this game is really tight. Actually, again, all of the outside shmups are like really tight gameplay, really responsive. And because the bullet design, it's just really well defined, and I feel like the patterns are really well thought out, that it's all precision. I think that's one of the things that really draws me in, and I think that's what draws a lot of other shmuppers into this kind of game. So when you use a bomb, it cancels all the bullets that the bomb touches. There's also a hyper system. And when you hit the hyper, basically the same as a bomb, but during your hyper, the score that enemies drop doubles, so that's definitely a big part of the scoring system. I didn't really focus on scoring too much for this. This was mostly a survival run. The only thing I was focusing on in terms of score was just to try to hit the next extend as much as I possibly could. But I did not really go deep into the scoring system to really try to juice it up as much as possible. I think that's something that I would have to spend more time with on another run and really explore it. And with that, I would probably take some more time to explore the different ships and weapon combos. When I was looking at the leaderboards after I made this clear, I go to the top 10 and I'm looking at which character they chose and which weapon combination loadout they chose, and if I go back to do this again, I'm probably going to go with whoever's in first place. I'm going to copy what they did. Another thing I do like about this game is that you get your kind of gadgets on the side. I really like having the heads-up displays for games, and I got to hand it to Outside for this, is that they come with they basically have a standard set of features where you're kind of getting, something on both sides of the screen, and it's always useful information. It's live information, and on top of that, you get a replay system, which, again, I love that. I love when developers put the replay system in. I've heard of a lot of developers. No, well, I shouldn't say that. I haven't heard from a lot. I've heard some developers say that one of the reasons why they don't put replay systems into Shmups anymore is because, everyone has recording capability basically on their computers and whatnot. And that's true, but I will say there's a lot of convenience to have the replay system built in. If I'm not mistaken, it takes up less space than a regular video would. You don't have to run a utility in the background to record. And if you have a good run, you can save the replay. If you have a bad run, you don't save it. And having that in the game, it's seamless. And, props to this game and this game series for having that. It made it easy to go back, and, it's just super convenient. So at this point, you can see the difficulty spiking a little bit. Pun intended there, because there's literally spike bullets coming at me. But things start to get a little bit more difficult. You're seeing a higher bullet density on the screen than you were in the beginning of the game. Look at that dog. He's pissed. That dog is pissed, and he has a sword, so you have to watch out. And you can just feel it. And but I feel like the game brings you through the progression in the right way. It just feels really good. I feel like this game was play tested, and they really spent their time, making sure that this was a good flow, if you want to say it that way. And so, yeah, we're in stage 8 right now, and there's still 8 or 9 minutes to go or something like that. So the brunt of the game is here towards the end. And, a lot of stuff is happening on the screen. Look at those bullets. They're homing onto me. They're locking in onto me, and they were coming sideways in every which way. So you're just not safe on the screen for longer periods of time here. One of the other things about this game was, the name I thought was cool. Like Dreamer. That kind of rolls off the tongue, but it's not really a phrase that you really heard before. And I before I bought the game, I didn't really know what that meant. What is a like dreamer? What is it? And it didn't really make sense to me until I got into the game and you realize that, it's about a character who is trying to be popular on social media and essentially dreaming about likes. And I was like, okay, I get it. But it's a cool name, rolls off the tongue, goes along with Cosmo Dreamer. But just thought I'd throw that in there. So at this point, I'm still somewhere at a point where I am still kind of trying to hoard my resources. I have 4 lives. My mental level is kind of going up and down and fluctuating, but I'm sticking on to those 4 life hearts and trying to hold on to as many as possible because I don't really know what the final boss is going to be all about. And, I knew that. I knew that I needed to save resources for that because it was an unknown for me. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's been a while since I did this run, that I'm pretty sure I hold on to most of those life hearts really until the very, very end, which again ended up being a very good thing. And so, yeah, I don't know. I was trying to decide whether to do commentary or not, but in some ways, I wanted to try to do some commentary here to kind of practice talking for long periods of time, just in general. I just think as something to try is an interesting thing, just talk for 28 minutes regardless. But I also feel like, maybe watching a 1cc with no commentary is fine, but this is really cataloging it for myself. There's nothing terribly interesting about this. I'm sure there are many better 1ccs with better performance if you're looking to get some tips and kind of maybe learn something specific. But for me, this is just a cataloging of things. So we are at the 22-minute mark, and we're still on stage 8, and things are getting a little bit more hectic. We've got some angels coming in fast and furious. We got some submarine-looking type things coming at you, and again, bullet density is ramping up to some degree. We got a huge dragon. I mean, that's the other thing too, is this game has like a pretty long roster of enemy types, and that's the other cool thing. There's a lot of eye candy here. Also, with all the stars and all the huge scoring numbers up on the screen, it's kind of like a nice spectacle to experience, which is just that's kind of what you want out of a shmup. You want the shmup to dazzle you to some degree visually, right? Alright, so here is a boss encounter, and I'm trying to remember what this was. Oh yeah, okay. This is the final boss. Queen Malona, and there are a lot of phases here, and this was where I was just like thrown off completely by the patterns, the speed of the bullets coming at me. I just had no idea what to expect and how to handle it. And so this is purely reactive, and I am relying on my instinct and whatever the game has taught me to this point, and I'm trying to like read the patterns as they're coming. And I think for these first couple of phases, I start to do okay. I feel like I start to get a handle on it, but over the last 2 or 3 phases, I really start to lose it. It's like one of those things where you start getting hit a couple of times, and any shmup that allows you to do that, you just feel the run starting to fall apart and crumble right before your eyes. And then you're like, I spent all this time getting this far. Am I really gonna, blow it right now? And so I think this is where it starts to get a little rough. So you can see my resources are already starting to go down. I went from 4 life hearts down to 3. Right now I am down to a 0 mental level, and the next hit is going to take me down to 2 life hearts. And then it's funny that, you know, this game uses mental level as a gauge, because my mental level in real life was really going haywire at this point, because psychologically you just know you're on the, you know, you're on some kind of you're in some kind of a tailspin. And so I'm trying to keep it together here, and I'm trying to find easy wins or you know, low-hanging fruit. And right there I got a perfect fight bonus, which that helped my morale a little bit. But trying to find something to like help build your confidence back up here right before the run just completely falls apart, and all of this time was wasted, essentially. The next extend isn't until 3.8 billion, and I'm at 1.0 billion, and so there's no chance of an extend. And here we are, down to the last life heart, 1 mental level star. I think I grabbed. Do I get to grab this mental level star here? Yes. So I caught it, and I lost it, and then I caught it again. And I remember just kind of like, you know, palms are sweaty, mom's spaghetti right here. And I was sure, in my mind, I was sure that this was going to be a failed run. Spoiler alert, it wasn't, but really, really close. I think I went down to the last possible mental level star. So it's getting fast and furious here. So close. I'm feeling pretty close. Take another hit. So at this point right now I have nothing. And then I got 1 mental level star left. There's 2 over there. I grab those, lose 1 immediately. 2 stars, so 2 hits. Now I'm down to 1 hit. And her health bar is really close. We're at like 6%, 5%, I don't know, something like that. If I get hit right here, I'm dead. And right there, that was it. I pulled it out right at the end, and yeah, that was intense. And it's kind of funny too, because, you know, the whole run leading up to that was pretty okay. Like, nothing too crazy. I didn't really get into a tailspin or anything like that. But that last boss and all of those phases really almost broke me. So I pulled it out at the end, and that was my miraculous Like Dreamer Maniac 1cc. And I'm going to have to revisit that game, see if I can get the TLB, maybe try a harder difficulty, and see where I go. So thanks for watching. Cheers.